Everyone, I call this meeting of the Committee on Local Government Finance to order. First item on the agenda is the roll call.
Mr. Levitt,
Here.
Ms. Colvin. There's just joined. I don't know if she can hear us yet. Jessica Colvin,
Yes, here.
Marty Johnson,
Here.
Ms. Yakobin,
Good morning, here.
Mr. Szynski,
Here.
Ms. Rackley,
Here.
Ms. O'Carroll,
Here.
Mr. Cronk,
Here.
Mr. Paul Johnson. Do not show he's on the line yet, and Mr. Foley and Mr. McIntosh were unavailable today. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment.
The Zoom has public comment. If you would raise your hand, or if you're on the telephone, hit *9 to raise your hand to be entered into the queue. If you have public comment here in the room, please go ahead and come up to the table. Mr. Todorov, you can speak.
Not at this time, thank you.
Is there anybody else on the Zoom who would like to give public comment? Please raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the telephone. I don't see anybody else at this time.
Did the one gentleman want to speak?
Rick Dogler hasn't raised his hand.
Not raising his hand? Appears to be none.
Okay. Going to the next item on the agenda for possible action, financial consideration of possible adoption of recommendations in order. Before we begin this, just a couple of comments I would like to make. We've had some situations, some of you know, where we've had audit reports that are considerably late this year. I think this probably, looking at some of these, it looks like we probably, we've been emphasizing here for several years the necessity of training staff so you have a little bit wider expertise in any of the local governments where if someone happens to leave, particularly if they leave unexpectedly, you're not sort of in the lurch and are way behind on getting these reports out. Another situation we find ourselves in now, we are within 2 weeks of filing the tentative budget for the June 2025 year. And at this moment in time, we still have audit reports that have not been submitted for the June 2023 year, which means that we've got 2 years. We're beginning a year and we have not yet closed out we're beginning a budget for the 25 year and we've not really closed out the 2023 year. And so we've got that 2-year lag, and I think that's unacceptable. And so we need to change that and do whatever's necessary so that we do not have this situation coming up again. I just wanted to refer to something that we don't talk about very often. And it's not my intent that we're going to apply it now, but we need to understand that it's a possibility of being applied. Let me just refer to a statute, NRS 354-665. And it says if a local government does not file a statement, report, or other document required by the provisions of NRS, that lists several of which the audit report is one of them, within 15 days after the day on which it was due, the executive director shall notify the governing body of the local government in writing that the report is delinquent. The notification must be noted in the minutes and so on. If the required report is not received by the department within 45 days after the date on which the report was due, the executive director shall notify the governing board body that the presence of a representative of a governing body is required to the next practical scheduled meeting of the committee, and so on. And then if an explanation satisfactory to the committee is not provided at the meeting as requested in the notice, and arrangement is not made for the remission of the report, the committee may instruct the executive director to request that the state treasurer withhold from the local government the next distribution from the local government tax distribution account if the local government is otherwise entitled to receive such a distribution. The local school support tax if the local government is a school district, or any property taxes on the net proceeds of mine on which the local government may otherwise be entitled to a distribution from the state. So in other words, the risk that everyone takes, and don't take that as a threat that we're going to apply into that today. We're not talking about that today. But you just need to understand that if the reports are not in on time and they're not available, you run the risk of losing your revenue source, both from the local government distribution account as well as for schools, the sales tax, which could be a real detriment to the local government. I just wanted to make myself fairly clear on that in that regard. And we want to encourage everyone to get these reports in on time. Kelly, let's now go ahead and go down through the list of, unless any other committee members have any comments they would like to make.
Chairman Levitt, can I just for the record let everybody know that Paul Johnson did join the meeting right after roll call?
Welcome, Paul. Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, for the record, Kelly Langley, Supervisor, Local Government Finance. This morning, I'm here to discuss Topaz Ranch Estates, GID, which has requested multiple audit extensions. In February, they received approval from the department for a third audit extension for submission of FY23 audit with a due date. We expected to receive that audit by March 29th. March 19th, we received a letter from the department, or from the local government entity stating that the independent audit, David Silva, stated March 29th deadline was not possible and that there were still accounting work that needed to be done in order to have auditable numbers. Today, via Zoom, we have Sharon Becker, who is the chairperson for Topaz Ranch Estates GID. We also have Deborah Connors, she's district manager, and David Silva, representative independent auditor, to address this delinquency.
Okay. We'd like to hear from you now if you have comments and give us an indication as to why we're late, as well as indication as to when we should expect that audit
While we're
delivered to the department.
getting them on the line, ultimately, the department's looking for guidance from this committee whether or not to provide another extension for their audit, or do we just not provide that extension and they are late? We've kept it as a policy to provide 30-day notice extensions. And so even if they, called originally and said, hey, we want 3 months extension, the department has previously said we will only issue a 30-day extension. But we've done that 3 times this year for this entity as well as for the others. And so ultimately, I think with all 4 of the entities I'm here today to speak to this committee, we'd like to know if the committee wants us to basically provide another extension or just have the auditors note that they didn't meet the deadline.
Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from the district.
Is Sharon Becker, Deborah Connors, or David Silva, are you on the line? And ready
Yes,
to
Dave
speak?
Silva is.
I'm Deborah Connors.
And so is Sharon Becker. Okay.
First of all, could you give us an explanation as to why we're so late? And then tell us what your plan is for when you expect this audit to be submitted to us.
This is Deborah Connors. Can you hear me all right? Okay. So I came on as the business manager after the close of the fiscal year under audit right now. When I joined, I'm an outside consultant. I'm acting district business manager. I have a strong financial background. When I arrived, the district was out of compliance in many areas, and I worked diligently every day to catch up with prior years, everything that was due. We're talking about budgets, annual reports, not just on the financial side, but also for the last, also on the
what side you're on.
operations side. So my hands were definitely full. We had over a year's worth of expenditures that were for rebuilding and constructing a well and preparing to drill another well, which we just started last week. We are drilling now. In doing so, I was spread far too thin. When the auditors, Mr. Silva, wanted to get started, I think a lot of the issue was we would give them things, but they weren't totally complete, and then I would be pulled off rail to do other things. We had 3 hearings while the county decided whether they wanted to take the district over ex officio, so I had 3 different hearings that I had to prepare for as well in this time. So with the district being behind in their financial accounting and their operations compliance, no DOM of record that could actually do this work, I was holding the entire organization up, looking for other staff to come in and support us. We've now hired other staff, et cetera. So unfortunately, it was pretty much a bandwidth and the amount of records that were in arrears already when I joined, it just caused a lot of problems. Then when we did kick it off, I think Mr. Silva can take it from here and speak to what happened on his side of the audit, which I think there were, we're short on auditors everywhere, I think, and he can speak to that.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. For the record, my name is David Silva, partner at Silva Sharani, and we are the auditors of record for Topaz, and this is our 3rd year as auditors. I would certainly echo what Debbie has just explained. However, I think I would just perhaps emphasize that for lack of a better term, the mess that she walked into is almost overwhelming. And the tasks that she has had to do to wade through the financial records, as you all can relate to, I'm sure, has just been extraordinarily time consuming. By the time that we got a trial balance, which was in February, that trial balance then had to be disaggregated so that we could have a representation for the 2 funds that the district operates. The trial balance that we got essentially was just on a consolidated basis. The issue that Debbie and I together are looking at right now that does seem to be rather problematic is the interface of their utility billing system with their QuickBooks accounting system. And as we've looked at it carefully over the past week or so. We've noted just a number of missed postings that occurred prior to Debbie coming on board, and a number of accounts that really still need to be critically analyzed. So the task before us started out as, again, really quite overwhelming. And as I sit here today, I would candidly characterize it as being doable, yet extraordinarily frustrating. But that's really beside the point, because we certainly recognize the requirement to get the audit in, and we are never, ever cavalier about due dates. And in fact, I would again be very candid and tell you that my firm quite often takes on client work that others will not. And I would say Topaz is a prime example of that this year. Will we get it done? Yes, absolutely we will. As I mentioned in my letter, I cannot, and again, as I sit here today, I just cannot tell you what sort of opinion or even disclaimer of opinion we may be issuing. I think Debbie and I together, and certainly along with Sharon, hope that we can get the utility billing system properly reconciled with what's represented in the QuickBooks. And that will take us a long way to being able to wrap this up. As far as the major issues go, that in my mind, and Debbie can chime in, but I would say that that is the largest one. There is a currently on the books, there is an account called reconciliation discrepancies that I believe, and Debbie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe arose from, again, this problem with the postings from the utility system, or the interface rather, from the utility system into QuickBooks. So that amount is very significant, and that must be reconciled properly to even begin to think about a clean opinion. If we were forced today to issue an opinion, it would probably have to be a disclaimer of opinion, but we still have audit work to do, I think is the point that I'd like to make. And most of that audit work will be centered around the utility billing system.
Yeah, I mean, to follow up, I'd say the audit last year got done in April, right? So this is the second year it's happened in April. During that period of time, no work was really substantially being done in the financial statements while last year's audit was being done. 2 months later, the person that was doing that, who was actually probably not competent in the position, left it completely unreconciled and unrecognizable as like two separate districts, or two separate funds within a district. So our choices at that point in time were, do we just scratch the database the way it is and then open up two new databases, take the old child balance? And at that time, we elected not to do that, to try to go with what we had in the system and just break it out. So maybe that wasn't the right decision from a timing standpoint, but so I've spent this last time just trying to get the prior years ready for the audit. So along with all the other work I explained that we had to do. And the most important thing when I walked in the door last August was actually to get the reimbursements of, $750,000 from the USDA and the state for the grant funding. So as we prioritize things, the audit just kept kind of falling down. And obviously the audit is at the top of the priority list at this point. And most other things are fairly caught up and we have other staff to help me. So in terms of the billing system, I think we can get through this. I have been able to get into historical records, et cetera. So I believe that we can tie this out. It won't look like we want it to look like, and none of us would do this kind of work. We would want it to be reconciled out at the end of each month, et cetera. But what I can say is that the amount of funds that we have in the bank right now today are the same amount of funds that we had at the end of the last audit that Mr. Silva did, which was at June 30th of 2022. We have not lost any money. We haven't gone backwards. We've kept everything financially secure. The district is strong, and it is an ongoing concern. And I think that's one of the major points of an audit, is to ensure that it is ongoing. Here we are again at the end of another year, and we have the exact same amount of money as we did 2 years ago, right? So we have recovered everything. We have, become back in balance. We do all of our treasury reports every month the way we're supposed to. And that's been an additional part of my role, is to make sure that we're following procedures in all of our board meetings and making sure that all the standing rules and the statutes for Nevada are followed as we function. It has been a heavy lift. We expect that next year's audit should be done. We expect to kick it off, hopefully, as of August 1. The USDA does have the Silva Serrani as the auditor, so we would like to keep them this year and next year. That will be the last year for the USDA funding requirement. But, we did have them approved with the USDA, and we'd like to keep this on track so that we don't lose any of that funding.
We are right now 9 months after the close of the fiscal year. And you're talking about doing reconciliations that normally would be done in the first month or the first 2 months after the close of the fiscal year if they were not done by the end of the fiscal year. Now, one thing I have not heard anyone tell me yet is a date when we should expect the audit to be completed. We're heading towards the end of this fiscal year. We're still talking, you're not giving me a date as to when you expect the audit for the last fiscal year to be completed.
If I may, this is Dave Silva again. In the letter that I sent to taxation in March, I had indicated that it was, certainly my understanding that the district needs to file their tentative budget by April 15th, and that the audit most certainly would have to be completed by that point. I indicated that I thought that would be doable. And I don't want to walk away from that at this point. I can tell you that it certainly won't be easy, but I don't think that that's really part of the conversation here. But I think with the discussions that Debbie and I had, in terms of it being comfortable, again, I realize that's part of this conversation. We were talking about April 30th, but I do think that we could get this done by the 15th of April. We do have the manpower in this office if I require overtime from everybody, which they should be doing anyways, quite honestly. But as I say that, I'd be hesitant to make that commitment without hearing what Debbie has to say, because I realize she's got other commitments besides Topaz as well.
Yeah, so my priority is Topaz Ranch. And I guess what I would not want to do is say one more time we'll hit April 15th and not make it. I think, as you and I discussed, I think April 30th is the most comfortable date. Obviously, we'll shoot for the 15th, but I would not want to have to come back and ask for one more extension. So my thoughts are, let's make sure we hit our deadline. But we'll obviously work to meet whatever this board asks us to do today.
I don't know about what the feeling of other members of the committee is, but my feeling at least is when we talk about an extension today, my feeling is that is the last extension you're going to be granted. And if you do not have the audit in by that date, you're in non-compliance. You're in violation of the law. Whatever that extension we agree to today is, right? What's the feeling with some other members of the committee as to what about an extension and when, if an extension, and when should we grant it?
Chairman Levitt, this is
Yes.
Felicia O'Carroll, and I'd like to speak on this matter. I will recuse myself from the final decision because I've worked with Topaz Ranch Estates in the past. I have worked on behalf of the district itself and both Dave Silva, and I realize how difficult it is to get people to go out there and work. Our profession is so short-staffed right now that it's fine to sit in our ivory tower and say, well, you should have done this the first month of the year. That's just not feasible in some of these small districts. And I certainly think that an extension until the 15th, or if they need it till the 30th. I understand that for a lot of people that seems, 9 months after the year end seems crazy. But for someone who has helped them and been there, I know that they are trying their hardest, but they're also providing water to a community. And so that also has to take priority if there are things revolving the distribution and taking care of that type of thing. So anyway, I just want to say that I certainly am in favor of granting them an extension. Just saying, oh, you're not in compliance, we're just going to tell you you don't get one. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is to do whatever we can to help them. And we're not helping them, we're just criticizing them. So enough said.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
We need to clarify that since she is recusing herself, that she is not voting in favor of granting them a request or an extension. That's just her personal opinion.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct. I said that wrong.
okay, thank you. Tom?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with both your comments and Felicia's comments. I just have a question maybe for Dave Silva. Since Deborah's come on board, Dave, can you see what the current finances look like going forward? Have you seen a huge improvement, just to give us some sense that things are getting back on track? I really couldn't discern that from the conversation.
I have not actually seen any financial statements after June 30th, 2023. I have obviously had, many conversations with Debbie, and I do know that the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that she has put into this organization has certainly yielded some very positive things. But have I actually seen numbers that can support that? No, I have not.
Right. Well, I still am in favor of granting an extension to the 15th or the 30th at the pleasure of the group.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yeah.
Question to Deborah Connors. You mentioned in your statement that the county had considered taking over the district as an ex officio. Is there any further discussion about that? Coming from a county where I too have 16 small districts and we've had to step in on a couple, that may be a reasonable answer back to Felicia's comments to assist these smaller communities. So if you could speak a little more to that.
Our board has voted to ask that they not do that. The district is, on several occasions, been at a revenue value higher than $1 million, which according to the statutes, if the board so chooses to not accept that request from the county, they did vote to say no, thank you, and having them take over as ex officio. There's many aspects to that that are much more complicated when you're talking about having USDA loans, grants, etc. So that would be very complicated. The district itself is in very good financial standing. They have excess revenues over their debt payments, have never missed a debt payment. And I don't see any reason for the county to need to do that. We did spend a good deal of the last 9 months bringing in new staff, kind of bringing in more competent individuals, both on the financial side and the water side, and road side, of course. And we're working with different agencies throughout Douglas County to try to help get raw materials in at a lower cost, or like a gift, etc., to get the roads done. I would think that we would lose momentum as a district if we were to do something like that. So I would say at this time, it's my recommendation that the county would not do anything to kind of disturb the momentum that we have created. And the board itself has voted, the district board has voted to say they're not in favor of the county taking them over. In terms of where we are, I mean, I definitely can provide all of the financial support in terms of bank balances, investment balances, et cetera, to the auditors all the way through March 31st. I have that work already completed and ready for our April 10th meeting. So I think that we haven't discussed that is sort of because that's the last piece of the audit, is to look at the current year's information. It doesn't mean that it's not in good standing. It just means we haven't gotten there yet. So I hope that answers your question. In terms of my request at this time, based on what your panel is saying, I would like to request April 30th as our deadline, because April 15th, I mean, that wouldn't be wise for us to do at this time. I just think we should take the April 30th if you would request or would allow that as our deadline on this, as our extended deadline.
Do we have other comments from members of the committee?
I have a comment. This
Yes.
is Jessica Colvin. I can speak for Clark County. So we have at least 8 separate entities that all receive separate audits and roll into our financial statements. So it makes it very difficult to meet that statutory deadline. In fact, we usually do not meet that. And Kelly's Langley's very patient with us. But we do have 2 of those component units where the county hasn't taken over the agency, but we have an agreement with them to act as their fiscal agent. And so we've been able to provide for their accounting, their treasury services. We help prepare for the audit, work with the auditors, because those 2 units really don't have the staffing or the capability or the resources to do that. And so we help those units along so that we can complete our audit. So I just wanted to put that out there as another suggestion, that if the county were willing, they may be able to enter into that some type of agreement, obviously in exchange for reimbursement for the costs that it takes, is how our operating agreement works.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee?
Yes, I do. budget going to be able to be turned in by April 15th?
I'm sorry, if that question was for me, could you please repeat that?
I guess probably more so for Deborah. Will the budget
Okay.
be able to be turned in by April 15th? The
Yes,
tentative?
it's being heard. Yes, it's being heard on the tentative budget is being heard at our April 10th meeting, and I'm in the middle of preparing that right now as well. And
Thank
that is ready to go.
Let me make a suggestion and see if this is agreeable to other members of the committee. First of all, since we have basic reconciliations that have not been done at this point, it seems to me that April 15th is a dream. The chances of actually having a completed audit by April 15th, unless this ending results is a lot different than ever I've seen in audits. So I would think probably April 30th is a more reasonable chance of actually having one. Said that, I would propose that we recommend to the department that they grant an extension through April 30th, but make it clear that there will be no additional exemption granted. It's not done by April 30th, there would be in violation of the statute. Now, I would also propose that at our next meeting, hopefully long after the audit's been submitted, but we get a report on where you stand on your whole accounting system, so we don't run into a situation like we do for this year. So that if we have problems, we can catch those early on. So that would be my feelings. I don't know. The other members of the committee might see if you agree with that.
Do you need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we will need a motion, I think.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, before making a motion, I just wanted to make one comment, and thank you for the time. As you referenced initially, 354.665 and withholding payments, to me, it seems, I agree with the April 30 deadline completely. It seems to me that we would be better served to get a written plan of improvement from a local government with solutions going forward to prevent it from happening than from withholding payments. I don't know if that can be part of the motion or whether or not we need to amend the NRS or not. And also there's references with respect to local school support tax, which school districts don't collect locally. It goes through the state education fund. So that might need to be revised as well. But it seems to me that I would be more comfortable with objectives that the local government's going to commit to in order to prevent this from happening in the future. And then also within that, we would be able to have taxation provide whatever assistance based on that document going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we would want to right now consider the application of where we're withholding payment to them. I think that would come at a later date, and I
agree.
Prefer that we do not discuss that at this moment in time. But just for an understanding, if this continues on into the future, then that might end up being a source, but I would not think we should anticipate that at the moment, this moment in time.
Mr. Chairman, if you could entertain.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, Abby.
I just wanted to just make a short mention. On the last two audits, there were a couple of management comments that, talking about it would be advantageous for the district to make their payroll, put their payroll with a third-party administrator, and then get some of their activities in the cloud to secure the data, et cetera. And I just wanted to mention that in terms of what Mr. Johnson just said, we have worked towards that as well. So as much as it may seem that we weren't really getting the audits done, we were really cleaning up the entire set of systems so that we wouldn't have a third year of the exact same management comments. So there is a lot of that infrastructure in place now. So I just wanted to give you the confidence in that.
And I still want to like a report at our next meeting as to where we stand. about the year-end closing and all of that? Okay, go ahead, Tom.
So I'll entertain a motion to provide for an extension till April 30th with the understanding that no further extensions will be provided and that financial information be provided to the external auditor and so when they come back to report back to us, hopefully with the completed audit, we can get an understanding of what the financial position of the organization is moving forward.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Abby?
Mr. Chair, just a quick comment, somewhat unrelated, but if we are in the spirit of helping the smaller communities, if any of the entities coming to us today have outstanding debt, which I just heard this one does, please double check your secondary market disclosure documents and make sure that you're not bumping up, which you certainly are at this point, against the 270-day rule. And we can certainly help you offline, by explaining that if needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? I assume that Felicia, you abstained.
Yes, and that's I did not work with them at all this year. So I think I'm being overly cautious in doing that. But I have worked with them for the last few years and I understand what they're going through. So that's why I'm abstaining.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the next one, Kelly.
Next item, report from Incline Village GID regarding the status of the 2022-2023 audit. Discuss delays in submission to the governing body in accordance with NRS 354.624. Today we have Kelly Grahman representing the department, and we also have members on the phone. She can state who here momentarily.
Okay. For the record, my name is Kelly Grahman. I'm the budget analyst to Incline Village GID. IVGID has requested and been granted 3 extensions. We did get their audit on March 29th. So we do have that. And I have been corresponding with Bobby McGee. He is the general manager since July of 2023. He has sent several updates to keep the department informed on what was transpiring with the failed transition to Tyler, the audit, the forensic audit, bank reconciliations, the quarterly economic surveys, the trial balance, and several vacancies that have since been filled. And to answer any questions you might have today, we have in Zoom, we have Bobby McGee, the general manager, Sarah Schmitz, the board chairperson, Jennifer Farr is the auditor from Davis Farr Certified Public Accountants, and in person we have Adam Cripps, the assistant director of finance.
Since you're here, would you like to make any comments to us about your situation and what you anticipate going forward?
Thank you, Chair. And for the record, Adam Cripps, Assistant Director of Finance for Incline Village. And what we have is through General Manager Bobby McGee, what we want to do is be fully compliant, of course, with state laws, regulations. And with that, we're working hand in hand with the department to do so. It is noted in our audit that there was staff turnover, and it was higher level staff. It wasn't just one person holding the bag. It was a number of staff that did leave the district. And then at that time, we had to bring up the arrears and, of course, look forward, which we have done through General Manager Bobby McGee, because at the time he was interim finance director. Both of us have been there for just a number of months now, and we are doing everything that we can through the board. We are maintaining compliance wherever we can. We are also, of course, like I said, working with the department hand in hand so we can make sure moving forward that this doesn't happen again. The cross-training has already begun. We are looking at other avenues to make sure we have reconciliations done in timely manners. So there are a number of aspects that are already in motion.
Now do you right now at this moment anticipate that you'll not have to have extensions for the year, for the next fiscal year? year that ends in a couple, 3 months?
The anticipation is that we will not ask for an extension.
And that you're currently up to date on your counting and reporting and such as a regard in this current year?
We are working diligently toward that. There are some items that we are just doing some final reconciliations on, but it is definitely in a better position.
Now, you mentioned a forensic audit. Do you have some indication?
With regards to the forensic due diligence audit, I would actually ask Mr. McGee to jump in on this. I'm sorry, General Manager McGee.
Yeah, the question I was asking is, since you have a forensic audit, do you have some indication of wrong that's occasioned you to request this forensic audit?
Thank you. I think I'll jump in here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Bobby McGee. I am the District General Manager. I've been in this role for about a month now. Prior to that, I was serving as the interim finance director from July until about a month ago. So with respect to the forensic due diligence audit, when I was serving as the interim finance director, we had received a number of credible complaints from members of the community on items that we felt warranted further investigation. And so we started looking at several of these items closer. Most of them we were able to easily reconcile. However, there were a couple of items that we were not able to reconcile. And so I felt that while we had no direct evidence of fraud, it appeared as though the elements of the fraud triangle may be present and that it was worthy of engaging with a firm who would do some due diligence on our behalf, an independent firm. And that's what we've asked them to do. They are digging into a couple of specific situations and trying to reconcile the items. And then in addition, we expect that they will provide a number of recommendations on any internal controls, loopholes that they would recommend we close.
Okay. Now, is the audit that's just been submitted, does that have a clean opinion in it?
No, it does not. It has a disclaimer of opinion.
Okay. Any other comments, questions by members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, could we hear from the external auditor, get her,
yes,
her observations?
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Farr. I'm the partner in charge of the audit for the IVGID June 30, 2023. I'm happy to answer any questions you have specifically.
I might just ask, what about the whole accounting situation was causing problems that required you to delay the audit this long?
Well, we communicated to the IVGID board. We met with them this week what those issues were. There was a change in the accounting system, which created some delays in being able to close the fiscal year end. Additionally, there was significant turnover at the district of the key finance and accounting staff, which resulted in a delay again in being able to reconcile activities and close the books. We received the trial balance to audit in December, but when we received it, the books were still not closed, and there was a number of adjusting journal entries recorded after the trial balance was provided to us. We ultimately received a second trial balance, and even when we received that, there was another 20 plus journal entries recorded to correct errors in that trial balance. So of course, we're working on both ends, the auditors and the IVGID team, to try to resolve and correct those issues, and ultimately decided that we could not issue a clean opinion, largely because of certain information that we were unable to receive sufficient audit evidence to support. And secondly, because of the outstanding forensic due diligence audit, we're unable to complete our procedures related to fraud risk and whether or not we need to modify our audit procedures as a result of anything that is detected in the due diligence work that's being done.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions from members of the committee? Since we do not have a clean opinion, and since we still have your audit outstanding, it's my feeling we probably should, on an interim basis before the next date of the next audit, or someone from Incline Village come in and bring us up to date on where you stand as it relates to that forensic audit, as well as overcoming any problems and deficiencies noted in the audit. So we can, probably by the next meeting, I would think the next meeting probably would be like in the early August or something like that.
If not before.
If not before, yeah. And so, given that, I don't think we probably need any action by the committee as an extension. We have the audit now, so I think we should plan on having you come back to the committee and give us an update on where you stand on these outstanding issues. Understood? Okay.
Mr. Chair. And will your budget be submitted by April 15th?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go to the next one, Kelly.
The next item, 3C, report from Elko County School District regarding the status of the 2022-2023 audit, discussed delays in submission to the governing body in accordance with NRS 354.6242. Today from staff, we have Carrie Gransberry, as she is the budget analyst for Elko County School.
Hi, my name is Carrie Gransberry, and I'm the budget analyst for Elko County. Elko County School District has filed an extension of the 23 annual audit report on October 2nd and was given until January 31st to submit the report to the Department of Taxation. On February 23rd, a second extension was requested, and due to extenuating circumstances, including a change in the CFO officers, as well as a new auditing company for the FY23 audit, an extension until April 5th was given to the Elko County School District. Today we have David Jenkins, CPA, CFO, as well as the Elko County Superintendent, who will report on, I'm sorry?
His name is CJ Anderson.
CJ Anderson, I'm sorry. Report on the status of the audit, as well as discuss any delays in submission to their governing body. We also have the auditor, Terry Gage, on Zoom to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you.
My name is David Jenkins, like she said. I'm the new CFO. I'd first like to give a little bit of history about the position that I took, that I now have. A couple of years ago, we had a CFO that, after a lengthy battle with some pretty severe illness, passed away. And then that position was taken up by my predecessor, who did a really good job at trying to get everything caught up, trying to make sure all of our internal controls were in place. And she worked really hard and made a lot of improvements. And during that time, we switched auditors from Hinton Burdick to Eide Bailey. And Eide Bailey, as a new auditor, of course, is going to ask a few more questions and take a little more time to get comfortable with our financial situation, and due to some issues with reconciliations and timing of other audits, Eide Bailey pushed our audit to the end of their list. And while we were kind of in that interim, my predecessor decided to take another job and left the school district in December. And on February 12th, I took up the position, and my first priority has been getting the audit done. And I've worked tirelessly trying to and constantly trying to get everything done so that we can have our audit completed. Terry Gage can speak to more of the issues that she had on her end, but from what I can tell, we have no issues with any sort of problems like fraud or anything like that. Our internal controls, my predecessor went through our internal controls and made sure that we had strong internal controls that aren't going to cause any problems. And I don't know that we'll hit the April 5th deadline, but I believe Terry is at the point that she's had all of her questions answered and is just going through quality control processes in her own firm to be able to issue our audit. And that's essentially where we are today.
At this moment in time, are there any unresolved issues that relate to you and the auditor, where you have additional work you have?
I don't
get the
believe
audit
so.
completed.
Answered all of their questions and they are just working through it on their end.
Are we in such a situation that you would not anticipate this situation happening during the next fiscal year?
I don't anticipate this happening again. I've got a lot of experience with reconciling books and making sure that going forward, we don't have this issue. I intend to make sure that I go through every account at year end and have it completely reconciled and ready for this next fiscal year so that when our audit comes around, we can get through it a lot quicker.
Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Just additionally, I guess, we appreciate understanding, given the situation we have. Finance and budget is not my first and most practice skill as a school district superintendent, and I'm finding that I'm learning a lot more about the budgeting and financial side of things as I've taken this job. My expertise is much more on the educational side of things, but really grateful to have David on board. Really appreciate it, as you said. It felt like during the short time, because I actually came in to my job after his predecessor came in, so not a whole lot of time there, and so still doing a lot of learning. But what I did notice all throughout that entire process was both from her and from Cassie Stalke, who's our current grants manager as well, lots and lots of intentional efforts to make sure internal controls have been improved, and so we've really grateful for those elements that have been added to our school district. But just seems like we're at a place now where we're ready to move forward and kind of shift the focus, hopefully, from audit to budget, so we can get back on track. So it's not just a chain event of one thing being late leading to another, being late leading to another. We're really hopeful to be back on track here pretty soon, and involving myself a little more than I normally would have as in the financial side of things. But maybe it's for the best that I start to learn that side of things a little better too.
I'd also like to note that this is unusual for the school district to have an audit go this late. In the last 3 years, we've had them issued in October and one in December. And so we've been able to get things done in a reasonable amount of time. It's just for some reason this year was a little bit off. Change of leadership didn't help that at all.
Yeah, I have not seen anyone from your school district in here before, which is a good sign, by the way, because usually we see anybody I see is usually because of problems. Let's hear from the auditor now and give us a feel for where everything stands and what you anticipate will be the release of the audit date.
Good morning. My name is Terry Gage. I'm an audit partner with Ide Bailey, and thank you for having me. And I thought Mr. Jenkins gave a very good update on where we are at. When we started the audit process in September, this was a first-year audit for us after I think the last year we had audited Elko County School District was 2018. So brand new audit. We started in September. I do believe, like Mr. Jenkins had said, playing catch up on trying to get things back in order after their CFO had passed, hiring a new CFO. In September, we did receive a working trial balance, but they were having problems reconciling cash to the accounting system. And I think those reconciliation issues had went back several years from talking to management in place then. And it was off a material amount. So we did the best we could on auditing the areas that were complete, but we all know cash does impact several other audit sections. I had to move our team on to other audits. As you know, I have several governments that are due during this time frame. So we were receiving entries clear up until when the previous controller left, which was in December. So middle of December, I think we received probably another 20 audit entries from when we had the original working trial balance. And then she had left, and a lot of those entries, we didn't have the support we needed to audit those. So when Mr. Jenkins came on board in February, we immediately have had several meetings with him and his staff. Since February, we have at least 2 meetings a week. We are sending the audit to our engagement quality control this week for our final review, and the school district should have a draft by the end of the week. So I think we've gotten most of our issues and our open areas with questions are answered, and we're at least at a level that our differences are below our materiality level where we can move on. So I actually commend Mr. Jenkins. I think it's hard enough when you take a new job, but when you take a new job and the previous audit's not done and you have budgeting and you're learning a new system, you're learning about the school district, you're living in a new area, that's a lot to put on somebody. And he has bent over backwards to be accommodating to us and our schedule and get us the answers that we needed and learn a lot in the process. So he's been great to work with. We're looking forward to getting this done and moving on. Like I say, I'm hoping to have a draft to them by the end of the week. And I'm happy to entertain any other questions. I also wanted to echo what Mrs. O'Carroll had said. I think in rural Nevada, I've done this for 35 years. It is very difficult to find key accounting professionals in rural Nevada and to help a lot of these smaller entities. And it's a challenge. And I echo Mrs. O'Carroll's comments on that sometimes it's a struggle for them and they need additional help when that happens. So happy to entertain any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So my sense is, knowing what we've heard today and knowing some of the predecessors, having worked with some of the Elko County School District in my prior role as CFO at Washoe, that you haven't inherited a mess here. So I think it's just a matter of transition. So I think we're in a good place here. So I would be very much in favor of granting the extension requested.
Now right now the last extension expires on the 5th. Is that right?
Correct.
What if we, if you talk about the end of the week, what if we simply recommend an extension to the 15th this month?
Can I add one more comment into that? That's a draft to them to prepare the management discussion and analysis. So I also know that they have a budget that they need to get out. So we might want to ask Mr. Jenkins, I'm not quite sure if he'll be able to get the management discussion and analysis and all of that done to actually present to the board by the 15th.
Next board meeting is the 16th, so.
16th? Mm-hmm. We anticipate that'll, if we recommend an extension to the 15th, does that satisfy?
I think so, yeah. I'm not sure, I haven't worked out in my mind how all of this, when what am I trying to say? I don't know exactly the rules on presenting audits and that as far as governments go. So maybe you guys can give me some background on that, but I think we can have it done by then. I would keep in mind that I probably will ask for an extension on our budget because of both things going on, but I will do everything that I can.
Mr. Chair, as far as requesting extensions on the budgets, there is no extension in regulation to allow you to allow the department to give you an extension.
Okay.
I think what I would recommend is if your board hearing is on the 16th, possibly grant them an extension till the 20th to get us their audit, knowing that the audit numbers will be in your budget that you would be timely with in providing on March 5th or April 15th.
Okay.
That's what I think would work for the department chair, if that's what you're amenable.
Yeah, because of the budgets tie into the whole property tax system in the state and such, there's not a practical way to extend budget preparation. So the statutes are very clear that budget preparation's on a certain date. Yeah, just as
my power to get them both done as quickly as possible, but
just as a
budget needs
sideline to this,
for the management discussion and analysis, I can certainly.
The budget used to have to be submitted on March 15th. I happen to be involved in moving that to the April 15th. And when I did, you'd be surprised at how many different statutes and such as had to interplay with by the time we made that extension to the 30 days for submission. And we definitely don't want to go beyond the April 15th, which is the deadline
information to have.
statute. Yes.
I think it's going to be difficult to prepare the MD&A and properly agendize the financials for that April 16th meeting. Like I say, they will have a draft this week and have ending fund balances, audited ending fund balances for their budget. But I think that's a pretty tight turnaround time to agendize it and have all the T's crossed and I's dotted on both ends for that April 16th meeting.
Yeah, Kelly suggested maybe the 20th, so.
Well, if they're, Mr. Chair, if the 20th or the 15th is a problem, even if we get it by the end of the month, so long as staff would have the beginning fund balance, the ending fund balance for 23, so the budget could be provided.
That's true.
We can be reviewing that, knowing that they've received, that the board has received the package of the audit. They have 30 days before they have to meet, and then we would get it immediately thereafter. So even if they could, schedule a special meeting by April 30th.
Okay, so what do we recommend? What if the committee then recommends an extension to the 30th for recognizing you have a meeting before the 30th for the audit report? Does that meet with everyone's members of the committee? Does that sound all right? Okay, if that sounds all right, let's get a motion to that effect then.
Mr. Chair, I move that we grant an extension to the Elko County School District to April 30th to submit their 2022-2023 audit.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And hopefully, we will not see you sitting here again next year.
I will do everything in my power to make sure that does not happen.
Next item on agenda 3D, report from Nye County regarding the status of the 2022-2023 audit. Discuss delays in submission to the governing body in accordance with NRS 354.624. Today we have Evelyn Berrigan, budget analyst for Nye County, and then she can speak as to who's on the line to represent Nye.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Evelyn Berrigan, and I'm assigned to Nye County. local governments. The past 3 years, Nye County and local governments have requested other extensions. These delays has delayed the entire county. This year, Nye County has requested 3 audit extensions, and with the latest deadline, March 15th, which already passed. So within the county, extensions includes the town of Beatty, Gaffs, Manhattan, Pahrump Swimming Pool, Nye County Hospital, Nye County Water Districts. In addition, I have received extensions from town of Amargosa, town of Red Mountain, town of Tonopah, Amargosa Valley Town, Beatty Library, Pahrump Library, Smoky Valley Library, and Tonopah Library. As of today, April 3rd, 2024, there has been no request for a extension from Nye County and local governments except for town of Tonopah and Tonopah Library. As I mentioned in the last meeting, the year 24-25 tentative budgets are due to taxation by April 15th. The delays of submitting these audit reports in time can also delay the delivery of the budgets for the new year starting in July. Kelly and I also have calls with the controller and the external auditor to understand the problems of the delays of the audits. One of them I know was OPID looking for current year and not prior year. And the recommendation would be that they could use prior year so it doesn't delay the audits for the years to come. So on the phone representing Nye County are Helen Bay, Nye County Controller, Deborah Strickland, the Nye County Chair Board, and Don MacArthur, the auditor, to answer any questions you may have.
As I recall, when we had our last meeting, there was an indication that the audit would be completed by March 15th.
Yep.
But my memory serves me correctly.
That's correct.
And of course, we are heading after a month after that date, and we have not yet received it. Okay, Nye County, let we get a report from you as to where we stand. I particularly like to hear when it's going to be completed.
On the phone, if Helen Bay is on the Zoom call, please raise your hand.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon, Chair and Board. Yes, I was here for that meeting you mentioned, and I'd like to defer to our auditor, Dan MacArthur, to answer the actual audit status. And I do want to state that it's our intention to actually complete the budget, the tentative budget, by April 15th, and include in those numbers the actual ending and beginning fund balances using the FY23 audited numbers. And I do have confidence that that can be achieved. So I did want to answer that question about the status of the 25 budget.
Mr. MacArthur, are you on the line with us?
Yes, Chairman Levitt, I'm here. Hope I've been unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can. Could you give us an update right now as to what the current status of the audit is and when you expect that to be completed?
So let me go to the OPEB report first. The OPEB report, both this year and last year, have been a timing problem, not being received timely. The OPEB report, final report, was received by the county on Monday of this week. The county's made some determinations to make some changes on how the OPEB calculation is made in future years, so the OPEB report is actually calculated a year in arrears instead of current, and they have discussed that with the consultants they use to prepare the OPEB report. They've done that in a plan to ensure that the OPEB isn't at issue in the coming audit year, June of 2024. We need to finish going through our work on that OPEB report and see how it impacts the financial statement. There's been ongoing reconciliation issues with the county. Right now, we are down to basically one remaining item, and that is there is a major fund inside the county, their grant fund, through which all grants flow throughout Nye County. Last Thursday, we met and we were informed that all the reconciliation required by the county in that county grant fund had been completed. And so it's available now for us to begin audit. And so we have begun that process to examine the county grant fund. We understand the importance of getting fund balance, ending and beginning fund balance numbers to the county comptroller for budget preparation. We have at this point prepared financial statements for basically all of the entities that were brought up that need this information so they can get budgets out and get them out to you and filed by April the 15th. Our concern is in getting this all complete is the grant fund and ensuring that all the accounting is accurate in there for the grants. Because this fund can impact, for instance, the town of Tonopah or the town of Round Mountain. Until we complete that work, we're not in a comfortable position as auditors that each one of those individual audits will be completed. Right now, we believe that, and our target date is to have that grant fund final work completed by the end of next week or at the latest April 15th. At which point we would then be able to prepare a final draft financial statement for the county to review, for the comptroller's office to look at and put together, and then complete the management discussion and analysis. That's basically the only outstanding item that we see as auditors is getting this grant fund tied down and taken care of. As far as actions that, from our point of view, as we've looked at the county through this process, the county has scheduled and continues to schedule weekly audit status meetings. Right now, the county manager has scheduled those through June of 2024, basically to ensure that there's progress being made so that through the end of 24, these problems aren't reoccurring for the June of 24 year also. That's an overview where we said I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sure you want a target date of when the audit will be delivered to Department of Taxation. Based on the dates I'm looking at on the calendar here, it seems to me that the week of April the 22nd through the 26th would be a time where the county commission could have a special meeting. The audit could be reviewed in a county commission meeting and then be filed with the Department of Taxation based on what we look at right now. The only issue that I need to just put in here is that if there become additional issues inside the county grant fund, that may need to be extended another few days. But we're not going to know that until we complete our examination of that fund and the impact on all the other entities within the county.
Okay. Now, of course, as you're aware, we've had continuing problems with Nye County for several years. And it would be really nice to get an assurance from them and from you that these problems are resolved so that we don't have continuing problems with Nye County. The problem, of course, mentioned earlier is that with the county, then it affects numerous other entities as it relates to their financial statements and budgets and all of those kind of things. So what's your feeling about the future? You know, we probably asked this before, but as it relates to this whole situation, seems like one thing or another keeps delaying it.
Chairman Levitt, this is Dan MacArthur. Are you asking me to respond to that or the county comptroller?
Both of you.
Okay. I'll go ahead and give you my comments. As we discussed with the committee a couple of months ago, significant staff turnover in the comptroller's office has basically created this current situation, where the office lost the comptroller and then it lost the budget analyst who had 10 years experience, and so the office is relatively new. That has had a significant impact over the last couple of years on the county's ability to close the books on a monthly basis and get things done timely. The OPEB report has been a problem. That was a significant problem last year. I believe the change that the county is making to have the measurement date changed on the OPEB report will take that off the table of ever being a problem in the future. I think those two items are really what are driving the current issues with the county. So continue to work in the comptroller's office of training staff and working with the present staff and reaching out for possible additional employees would be a benefit. I know the county is working on that. I feel from an audit point of view, I feel that the county manager's approach to having audit status meetings every week from now till the end of June of 24, I think that'll have a significant impact on alleviating any late filing problems for 2024. That's my overall view at this point of where the county stands.
Okay.
As far as future issues.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Nye County.
Chair, would you allow me to speak? This is Commissioner Strickland.
It's Nye County's chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chairman and board, I respect this job that you guys are doing, and we on our end have been working diligently to fix the problems that we had. Really simply, we did not have a comptroller for longer than had been anticipated until after she had left. We didn't realize how short we had been in that office. And now we have a very competent comptroller. She's stepping into these shoes. She's ready to do this job. And as the chair of the Board of County Commissioners here, I do have some financial background running my own businesses. And I can see where our problems are, and I'm willing, and so is our commission, to step up and solve those problems. We will continue to have these weekly meetings so we can be prepared for next year's audit. I want to get well and ahead of this. I am learning what this is about, and I'm sorry I'm in my 5th year and didn't take the opportunity to learn more about it in the past 4 years. So you have my commitment, but we will do our level best to make sure that we succeed and we're not before your board again. And thank you, board.
Okay, thank you. I would anticipate that we will probably likely have a meeting in the fall for this committee, and I would like to have you come back at that time and give us a report as to where everything stands. That would give us a couple of 3 months before the audit's due. So let's get a feel for at that time for where everything stands. And you can give us a report about any actions you've taken to make sure that we don't have this continuing problem. So we need to, sounds like we need to the end of the month on them probably.
Yes.
Probably need the end of the month.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant an extension to the end of April for Nye County.
And I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to clarify an extension to,
April 30th?
for them to submit. Do I need to receive a letter from them requesting that? Because since the last one, I have not received anything. They submitted 3 extensions, and after 15, I have not received anything. They're requesting the extra time.
Extension. Chair, ask that the local government entity, Nye County, provide a letter requesting that extension to April 30, and then your recommendation will provide that.
Yeah, so Nye County submit the request, And then we recommend that that request be granted.
So I'll amend my motion to state that Nye County submit their request for an extension till April 30th and that we grant that extension.
That motion is seconded.
Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, board.
I think I would just like to make a comment as it relates to how much we appreciate the staff of the department that have worked with these entities and to getting all of this information brought to us and up to date such. We know it's difficult, and I just want to personally say how much we appreciate the work you've done.
Thank you.
Next item, item 4, briefing between the Committee on Local Government Finance and Local Government Finance staff. We have item A, appointment to serve on the Economic Forum.
Yeah, we have a appointment to the Technical Advisory Committee of the Economic Forum is what that technically should say. And the statute says that the chairman of the department serves on this committee or his designee or their designee. And I'm thinking that probably since the meetings are held normally in Carson City, that it would be best to have the person that serves on this committee be in the north. That way you wouldn't have this travel problem back and forth. So Abby, would you be willing to serve on this committee?
Yes, sir.
So I would indicate then, if you're willing to serve, that you serve on it. It's what the committee does is mainly handles all of they call minor revenues, but they're actually hundreds of millions of dollars in total revenue, and provides estimates. And those estimates are given to the full body of the Economic Forum, and then the Economic Forum incorporates those into final estimates for the state of Nevada. And then, as the way the statute reads, both the governor and the legislature are required to use those estimates when they prepare their own budgets.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, anything else under?
And as far as communication between local government committee and staff, I did want to let you know the department was timely in providing the revenue projections as well as the pro forma. The pro forma, we actually, I think for first, this team, besides working with the entities that we've been fighting for audits, we also did receive, get it out on the 22nd as opposed to the 25th. So I was very proud of the team to be able to do that. And I think, not that we don't anticipate that we'll have problems with those pro formas, but this time we actually have had none of the local governments contacting us saying these numbers look wrong. We had, no problems. And I think that's a first since I've been with the department. So kudos to the department for scrubbing these numbers as well as they have and being able to produce what I feel is I'm very comfortable with the document that we provided to the local governments. So thank you to staff.
Anything else under that
Not that I'm aware.
item? Possible action, review and approval of minutes. CLGF meeting, January 25th, 2024. We have a motion on the approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
We have a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. For possible action, schedule date and review agenda topics for the next meeting.
And Chairman Levitt, this is Felicia Carroll. I just want to clarify on the last one, I was not at that meeting, so I abstained from voting on the minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm thinking maybe the date of the meeting in early August, but as it relates to all of these meetings, if we have problems come up, we can schedule an earlier time.
Okay.
Now, we've outlined several things today, returning people we need to have come to that meeting. And I suppose we probably ought to have, by then, we would have a report on the budget submissions, both for the tentative and the final budget. And
Correct, Mr. Chair. We would have the final budgets in by the end of June, well, the end of May, June 1st, because then we're going to have certification by the Nevada Tax Commission on June 25th for the Red Book. So we would have that information available to share with the committee as to the rates that began July 1st.
okay. Anything else any of the committees aware of at this moment in time that we ought to put on the agenda for discussion? Not aware of any problems or anything that would come up that need our attention? Okay. As it usually happens, some things arise in the interim, but does that seem like a reasonable time for the next meeting around the 1st of August?
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, public comment.
If there's anybody on the Zoom who would like to make public comment, please raise your hand. If you're on the telephone, hit *9 to be entered into the queue. It doesn't look like we have any public comment at this time.
Doesn't look like any comment. As I've said before, it's good to see all of you again. Hear your voices, and just from my own personal standpoint, appreciate your work on the committee, and as well as all of our staff and legal counsel and everyone associated therewith, and have a good summer.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave, it looks like this fellow from Incline Village keeps turning his raised hand thing on and off. I don't know if he wants to make a public comment or not.
We spoke to him earlier. He doesn't know why it's glitching on his end and doing that. Thank you, though.
Okay, thanks, Marty.
No, he does not want to make any public
He
comment.
could speak if he wanted to. He's available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing else then, we are adjourned.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.